The Amazon was a cathedral of sound and heat, a place that devoured the unprepared and worshipped only endurance. For Dr. Elias Monroe, it was supposed to be the culmination of a decade's work. He had dreamed of cataloging undiscovered plant species deep within the uncharted basin near the Rio Arapians, a stretch so isolated that even satellites rendered it as a green blur. The mission was simple on paper: collect, document, and return. But paper burns, tears, and, as Elias would learn, can also be eaten. It began with a hum. The float plane engine sputtered once, then twice, before dying completely. The pilot cursed, slapping the dashboard, his face pale under the sweat-streaked light. They were 20 miles off course when the plane's nose tilted downward toward the endless canopy. Brace! The jungle swallowed them whole. Elias woke to the sound of dripping water and buzzing flies. The pilot, gone. The equipment, scattered. His notebook, miraculously, lay beside him, its waterproof cover smeared with mud and blood. He should have been dead. Instead, he found himself alone in the largest, loudest, hungriest ecosystem on Earth. Elias was a man of logic, a botanist from Cambridge who believed everything in nature had order. He'd studied photosynthesis, soil pH, and plant defense mechanisms. But standing under that colossal canopy, the rules he knew collapsed. The Amazon was chaos disguised as beauty. The humidity felt alive. The air tasted like rotten sugar. He inventoried what he had. A backpack with 2 sample jars, a field knife, a small pack of crackers. And his notebook, 2 years of research, handwritten in waterproof ink. On the first night he made a fire. On the second he nearly lost it to rain. On the third the forest began to whisper. He followed rivers that curved like serpents and vines that dripped from the sky like living veins. Each sound, each crack, felt like it belonged to something watching him. His food was gone by day 5. By day 7 the cramps began. Hunger turned his stomach into a hollow drum. His hands shook when he wrote notes about the plants surrounding him. Ficus marcensis, possibly carnivorous roots. Avoid contact. He still wrote, not for science but for sanity. The act of writing kept him human. It was the 11th day when he found the river again, or maybe another river entirely. He was delirious, his lips cracked, eyes sunken. He caught frogs, ate them raw, and threw up hours later. That night, lightning cracked through the jungle. His tent, what was left of it, caught fire. The flames devoured half of his notes before the rain smothered the rest. When he awoke, the smell of burnt paper hung heavy in the air. The pages were curled and blackened, but some survived, soaked, fragile, edible-looking. He stared at them. There was food all around him. If only he'd learned which plants were safe. But irony has a cruel sense of humor. The one man who studied the edible flora of the Amazon couldn't remember which plants would kill him. He'd lost the pages with his toxicity notes. That night, as thunder rolled across the basin, Elias tore out a page, one lined with sketches of Lepidostachys viridis. He crumpled it, stared at it, and whispered, "I wrote this to feed the world." Then he ate it. The paper was damp and bitter, the ink metallic. He chewed slowly like it was sacred. At first he gagged, his throat rejecting it. Then he swallowed. And then another. Each page became a ritual, a taste of survival and shame. Days blurred. He rationed the notebook like bread, 1 page at sunrise, 1 at sunset. Each leaf represented another chance to live another day. By the 15th day he was hallucinating. He spoke to the trees, to the ants, to the pilot's ghost. He imagined voices whispering from the vines, "You're eating your knowledge, doctor. The jungle's taking it back." He laughed, then cried, then laughed again. At night he dreamt of his students back home. They'd called him the Green Monk, a man devoted to the Amazon, to understanding life itself. Now he was reduced to digesting his own research. His life's purpose turned into pulp. He began to lose count of time. The jungle didn't measure days, only decay. It was around day 20 when he saw movement, shadows shifting among the leaves. Not jaguars. Not monkeys. Humans. Elias stumbled toward the sound, waving his charred notebook like a flag. "Help!" he shouted. "Poor favor." The group froze. They were Yanomami, faces painted in red clay, eyes sharp with curiosity. They approached cautiously, their leader raising a hand. Elias fell to his knees, sobbing. They didn't understand his words, but they understood hunger. For 2 days they fed him, cassava, fruit, river water. He ate until his body rebelled. His stomach cramped violently, rejecting real food after weeks of starvation. He was delirious, whispering in English and Latin. Piper longum, species unknown. The shaman among them, an old man with silver paint across his chest, watched him closely. When Elias awoke, the shaman placed something on his lap, a bundle of bark sheets covered in drawings. Escrita, the man said softly. Writing. Elias realized, they wanted him to teach them his symbols, to record their plants, their medicines, their life. So he began again. This time he wrote not for academia, not for prestige, but for survival, his and theirs. Weeks later, a rescue helicopter spotted smoke rising from a remote clearing. The signal fire had been built perfectly, symmetrical, calculated, scientific. When they found Elias Monroe, he was 30 pounds lighter, sunken-eyed, clutching a bundle of bark scrolls and the remains of his notebook. He was alive, barely. The rescuers carried him out of the jungle, their radios crackling with disbelief. They found the wreckage of the float plane 2 miles north, and the skeleton of the pilot, already claimed by roots and ants. Elias never spoke much during the flight back. He just kept the ruined notebook against his chest like a relic. When he arrived in Manaus, the press swarmed him. Dr. Monroe, how did you survive? He looked at them, eyes hollow. I consumed my research, he said simply. Knowledge kept me alive, literally. The words made headlines around the world. But the real story, the spiritual one, lived only in his silence. Months later, back in Cambridge, Elias presented his findings at a closed symposium. The scientists applauded the discovery of Monroe's fern, a plant that seemed to filter water naturally through its leaves. But the audience didn't notice his trembling hands. They didn't know half the data was gone, swallowed. He never told them that his discoveries were incomplete because he'd eaten the pages that contained the plant's full genome mapping. He'd traded knowledge for life. One night, he returned to his study, lit only by a small lamp. The burned notebook lay open on the desk, fragile, skeletal. He ran his fingers over the surviving ink. Each page smelled faintly of smoke and rain. Then he took a pen and began writing again. The forest does not yield its secrets. It consumes the curious, then spits them out reborn. I went to study life, and found it watching me back. He looked out the window, the rain pattering softly against the glass, and smiled faintly. Somewhere deep in the Amazon, a tribe still carried his teachings, his second notebook written on bark. The jungle had taken his first notes, but gifted him new ones in return. Years later, a graduate student found Dr. Monroe's last journal entry after his passing. It was dated 5 days before his death and written in shaky handwriting. People think survival is about endurance, but it's not. It's about humility. I didn't conquer the Amazon. It spared me. Every scientist goes looking for discovery. The truth is, sometimes the discovery is you. The student turned the page, blank. Except for one faint stain. It looked like the edge of a bite mark. Today, the world knows Dr. Elias Monroe as the botanist who ate his notes. But in the Amazon, among the Yanomami, his name means something else. The man who listened to the trees. When future explorers find his bark journals, now hidden deep within the rainforest, they'll find sketches of plants unseen by modern science. Species still waiting to be found. And written in the margins of one page are 5 words, faded but legible. The forest remembers those who learn. The jungle had devoured him once. But now, in every leaf, every whisper, and every drop of rain, Elias Monroe still lived, not as a scientist but as part of the living experiment he once sought to study. The man who ate his knowledge had become one with it. This story moved you, share it. Sometimes, survival isn't about fighting nature. It's about listening when it speaks.